So now you've got more T3 and you've got more sensitive thermoreceptors on the surface of your skin. You've also got better fatty acid oxidation from, brown adipose tissue.
Of course, we also have the terrible night sweats. And that seems to be the most common issue that most... I have night sweats now, but I know how to mitigate it. Yeah.
What's your sensitive estradiol? Do you know?
No, I don't have sensitive estradiol here in Thailand. My regular estradiol is about 40, 45.
Okay, so it's not high.
No.
I was wondering if it were related to estrogen, similar to menopause, like a hypothalamus. It also could be the prostaglandin response. A Trenbolone causes a PGE2 response, right? That's one of the satellite cells from Trenbolone come from. It's why it's going to generate satellite cells better than other drugs is from that response. That response also can give you a fever.
Yeah, and that could be from lowering thyroid binding globulins by increasing free thyroid hormones.
As it's also helping, right? It's blocking estrogen conversion. It's probably doing multiple things at once. I don't get the sweats anymore. I think some of that also might be dependent on diet, right? If your calories are super low for you, it seems to do funnier things with your body. Like my sweat, like when you diet really hard on Tren, you start to smell ammonia, right? Like if you eat an abundant amount of food on Tren, it doesn't seem to have the same level of side effects.
That's true.
The other thing that I read years ago, I was just trying to remember there from my notes, is when I looked into it, androgens will improve, well, I can't say improve, it'll enhance the sensitivity of the thermoreceptors on the surface of your skin. So obviously with core temperature regulating and obviously probably the T4 to T3 increased conversion. So we know again, androgens increase their conversion rate. So now you've got more T3 and you've got more sensitive thermoreceptors on the surface of your skin. You've also got better fatty acid oxidation from, brown adipose tissue. Now all of a sudden you've got this mixture of enhanced thermoreceptivity. So now you're going to sweat more to try and cool the body down. You've got a higher metabolic efficiency from thyroid hormone. And it seems to be obviously that those thermoreceptors are, I guess estrogen sensitive to an aspect. So with Trenbolone having a very similar structure to estradiol, that was the only sort of mechanism I could get into years ago when I looked into it. And it seems to be a similar sort of mechanism of how like something like capsaicin induces sweating.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
When you look at the two structures, capsaicin is very similar to estradiol as well. Those thermoreceptors on the surface of your skin just become amplified.
Might there be some overlap through the estrogen-related receptors that SLU-PP332 works on? That wouldn't surprise me either. I mean, not that I remember reading anything about that, but, structurally, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, in theory. I mean, the sweating aspect, the way I always I'd recommend getting around it is you can sort of lower core body temperature with a cold shower before bed. So by that point, you're forcing your body to regulate your core temperature before you go to sleep. The other thing with like cold exposure before bed is you'll induce a catecholamine dump rather than during the middle of the night. So sometimes guys wake up in the middle of the night on prep because the adrenals have offloaded a load of stored catecholamine and cortisone into the system, that you wake up at 2-3 a.m. Whether it's because blood sugars dipped a little bit or whether the body's just dumping adrenaline into the system, that having cold exposure, cold shower, shaking, that thermogenesis following the exposure, you're using up norepinephrine and adrenaline that's stored in order to bring your temperature back up again. So I wouldn't say do the cold shower, straight before bed. Do about 90 minutes before going to sleep. So that way, by the time you go to bed, you'll have regulated your core temperature, that you're not going to have those issues when you're lying in bed. But like the other thing about it is very simple, is just sleep naked. That's it. When guys wear pajamas or bed clothes, your duvet is important. The core temperature, is going to respond to that. The temperature of the room, like silly little things like that. If you sleep naked with no sheets on top of you, your body has no choice but to regulate its temperature. You're never going to get overheat because you have a big massive blanket on top of you. But again, it depends on the temperature of the room and what I guess your sleep onset association is as well. Like naturally, I learned to sleep with, not much blanket on top of me. I'm happy to go to sleep with nothing, duvet over me. But for guys who find it difficult, they might not fall asleep if there's no blanket on top of them. So, but that's another thing on top of the cold shower is just, not wearing any bedclothes.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't worn any bedclothes for 20 years since I'm living in Thailand. So I didn't even think that it was an after, that people still wear bedclothes. Of course, in Europe and other colder climates, people do have that thick blanket that's like this big. And yeah, it would make sense that you would retain all your body temperature underneath those blankets. And then sweat buckets. That's what I remember from my first Tren cycle. I did Tren Inite, I did 300 milligrams a week on my first Tren cycle. And then you have this thick European blanket and you go to the bathroom and it's completely soaked. The mattress is soaked, the blanket is soaked, and the pillow is soaked. You go to the bathroom and then you come back into this cold bed that's wet. It was horrible.
Even like people changing the tog like that, having a summer duvet and a winter duvet. Some people just have one duvet that's on the bed year round. So that's another thing, don't oversee or, don't oversight is changing your duvet between the seasons.
Yeah.
Something simple that you're not paying attention to.
I think that the biggest takeaway here for the sweating is that if you get like your body fat levels down, so you have something, you don't have to radiate through all these layers of fat, that saves a lot. So you start Tren when you're lean. I mean, how many people fall off on this subject alone because they want to use Tren to get lean? And they use it at 15% body fat. Of course, you're going to get night sweats. What do you expect?
Yeah.
You're fat. All this heat needs to radiate through these layers of fat. You protect your body from radiating too much, but if you're too hot, you're also just retaining all this heat. And then if you're laying under a thick blanket, that doesn't help. So I think if you take the Tren in the morning and you're lean from 10% body fat downwards, and you use a body blanket that is like basically like a beach towel. So it absorbs the sweat if you do sweat, but it also permeates air. So what I have is like this giant beach towel that's just a body blanket. It's very porous, and I have basically a fan that doesn't make any noise, certainly not as noisy as the fan outside of Dean's house. I don't know what that is, but don't worry, we'll fix it in post-production. So I have like just a 0 decibel fan at the foot end of my bed, and it's just blowing like on the first or maybe the second intensity. It's just blowing air through this body blanket, this body towel, and this allows me to cool down. Throughout the hottest climate in Thailand. Of course, I have air conditioning, climate control in my room also, but that kind of blows over the head. So it blows into the fan, then it blows over my body. And that's basically the best climate control I can do. You also have these mattresses that can have climate control. Yep. I'll link one down below. Derek More Plates More Dates sends me one because that has like dual climate control. Of course, it's a couple $1,000, but it can climate control for your girlfriend or wife at a different temperature than it does for you. And that's apparently a game changer. Yeah, it's a couple $1,000. It's shipping within the US is doable, but I recommended this to a couple guys that run Tren. They're pretty high. They're financially secure, and the wife is like just sleeping at a nice, comfortable temperature. And then on the guy's side, it's like almost freezing, just to keep his core body temperature down. And then he's got this fan blowing over him, and he's like, "Man, this is the best sleep I ever had. I didn't sweat one single drop." So
I'll go back to the drug thing for 1 second because I feel like a lot of the audience probably just wants a steroid answer to the Trenbolone, how to mitigate the sides. I would just say something I just see is everyone follows trends all the time, right? So we talked like GH15, like back then it was high Tren, low test, and now everyone's high test and then whatever primo and whatever people are doing. I think it's very important to experiment with yourself and figure out what doses work for you. And not just follow what everyone else is doing, right? Just because, like Chase will run 3 grams of test, that doesn't mean that everyone needs to run 3 grams of test. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it either. It also doesn't mean that just because you have a large population that's this modified TRT thing, but it's not even a TRT dose, right? Like there's a huge population of guys that I deal with that are running 100 milligrams of test and they want to add anabolic. maybe out of fear or out of lack of knowledge. Maybe it's about experimenting with things. Bring the test up and see how you feel, or just play with things instead of just following whatever this mantra is that you're reading on Instagram. Everybody's body's different. Like the three of us run totally different amounts of things.
Yeah.
Right? And the result is very similar. It doesn't mean that,
yeah, we all look jacked. And we're in a good mood. So at least we're doing something right, even though the protocols are different. No, I agree. The starting point for me was also very basic. But of course, now we're 15 years into my drug journey and I have a YouTube channel where I talk about drugs. So my stacks are not complicated. Doesn't mean you have to do that.
No, definitely not. No, I think the question
it's a learning point,
I think the question with anything, right? If you're in the gym and you're lifting and a newer person comes up to you and wants to talk to you about training and gear and all these things, I think the question they always ask is, what are you doing? It's not what you're doing now. It's what you did when you were their size to get you there, right? Like, it doesn't matter how any of us train now. I don't necessarily train now like I did 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's changed, but what I did to get to that point, what do I eat now is very different from what I ate when I was 150 pounds.
True.
Right? Like True. I can tolerate a lot more food and more cheat meals and things like that I couldn't when I was younger and smaller. And so I think it's asking the right questions too. It's not mimicking what a pro is doing. It's not mimicking what a TRT guy's doing. Maybe it's just figuring out and you're playing with yourself and seeing, not playing with yourself, playing with your doses and things.
It's okay
to see what,
so
or you can play with yourself too. On Tren, only on Tren.
I mean, only on Tren. So what you said earlier, where you were doing some self-experimentation to figure out a higher truth for protocols that you want to run your clients, I'm all for it, man. But like us three have clients. And we did bodybuilding prep coaching, and then we have many bodybuilders that we're in touch with, in touch with. I touch them, but it's only for protein.
It's remote, it's remote.
Yeah, it's remote. Yeah,
it's remote. Touching.
Yeah. So, man, I lost my.
Lots of bodybuilders prepping for shows.
Yeah, the prepping for shows, right? So we experiment on ourselves to kind of come to a higher truth. But if you're not in that demographic, then yeah, just play it safe. I want to give a shout out to your client, José, who lives in Thailand. So you coached him from natural to his first cycle.
Yep. And been a year now.
It's been a year now. So he did phenomenal, bringing up the carbs, eating a lot of food, increasing in training intensity and training volume. And then you put him on a test cycle, super low dose. Mm-hmm. And of course, then he watches my YouTube channel. I'm sure he watches this podcast because he loves the Anabolic Roundtable. And then he asked me, what about SLU? What about methylene bloom? Like, run it past Kurt first because it's probably not required for where you're at because he made stellar gains.
Oh, he's got
stellar progress.
He's got some great genetics.
And fucking work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
He fucking kills it in the gym. I see him there at BPC Fitness. And shout out to Jose for having an amazing Korean restaurant. I went there last Saturday. He invited me. And Kurt, if you come to Thailand, you got to eat there.
I will be in Thailand and Bali next summer in June. I think I'm going out with him.
Yeah,
to Bali.
I'm going to Bali also. When there's a seminar, I'll meet you there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so come to Thailand also. The restaurant that he has, he's been inviting me for like a year or something. I'm like, yeah, I'll come next time. So now it's like, okay, I'll come have a look, dude. I should have come earlier because the food quality is so good. My God, it's amazing. Yeah,
he's a perfectionist. I don't think he does. He doesn't do anything like half-ass.
No, exactly. Yeah, like you said, he does everything 100%. So the restaurant 100%, the cycle and training and bodybuilding 100%, and realizing where he came from a couple of years ago. I mean, he's done very, very well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the gym that he's opening with a partner in Bali. We'll definitely do a seminar. We'll start promoting that on the Anabolic Roundtable.
Yeah, we should do that together. I didn't realize you were going.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if it's with Jose, it's only 4 or 6 hours away. So he sent me some pictures of the gym that they're doing and a previous seminar that they had at another gym with one of the co-owners of the gym that they're opening. So yeah, I'm all on board, man. I mean, if you can go there for a week and do a seminar, do some training camps, and then 2 weeks, yeah, and then do a little bit of a holiday attached. I'm excited.
I'll bring my wife and kids.
Yeah, I saw how much fun Dean was having in Dubai. I'm like, what? I need one of these seminars, and when am I going to get invited?
I'm supposed to be going to England as well, to the UK, to speak at a couple gyms as well in the next year.
Really? Okay.
So you and I can hook up for that.
Absolutely, yeah, I'd love to.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that's cool. That's
across the
cool, man.
pond.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then obviously we've got our big SM building that has a
All
big
right. Yeah.
education seminar space upstairs that we're dedicating. So again, we'll get the two of yous across for a nice seminar within the building once that's all up and running.
Yeah, that would be cool, man, for sure. In-life stuff is always better than online, from what I've noticed. That's why I'm looking forward to the Mr. Olympia. It was so cool to meet Dean in Dubai, because it's a whole different dynamic than just podcasting, even though our podcasting dynamic is fucking epic already after 4 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it'd be really cool to see you in person.
For sure. Let's circle back to a couple more trend subjects, because people love trend. So we got the insomnia covered, right? The sleep quality. We got the night sweats covered. Got the amyloid plaque buildup covered. What about the trend rage and the trend cough? How can we circumvent those things? Because the trend cough, I mean, I circumvent by doing sub-Q shots. You can also take Ventolin inhalers just to kind of open up the bronchioles, prevent these sudden inflammatory prostaglandins from really kicking your ass. And that's my solutions. Do you guys have other solutions to mitigate trend cough? Because it might be in the brewing also.
Some. I mean, you hit a vein, it's going to do it. It's and it's only with acetate. I do like, we were going to go into the sub-Q and IM thing later, but I do find that could be a useful way to inject Trenbolone, could be sub-Q, because you're going to avoid obviously hitting a vein, and you're probably going to slow the release down just enough where you're not going to get that dramatic level in the blood.
Right.
So that could definitely be a good use, unless you're doing hundreds of milligrams a day.
Yeah,
that is a bit hard.
No,
Dean, you're doing like 10 milligrams 4 times a week, right?
Yeah,
that was your protocol.
That's what we're doing, and I mean, I sort of do like you, but it's a hybrid the way I explain it. It's like not sub Q, but not IM. It's a 30G, but it's pretty much an insulin pen, and because it's only 0.1 of a mil volume, if you go into the bicep or the delt, you're sort of, the needle depth is what, half an inch, so you're going between the two, where some of it, if you're very, very lean, some of it's going into the tissue and some of it's going into the fat layer. That I still find, probably I've not tried your sub Q way, which Kerr is agreeing. I can definitely see that, because a couple of times with that hybrid way, I do sort of find where you can sort of taste, when you've not where you get the cough, but you can actually taste that a small amount has actually gone into the bloodstream, to speak, or there's been something nicked. It's probably something that I might try to see if it removes that altogether. But I've always tried to figure out the reflex of what goes on there. In terms of the cough. Obviously, it's an excretory pathway, if you want to put it that way. But also, is there a level of physiology in terms of a receptor being activated, other than, sometimes you get guys who will have massive fits of cough where they have, absorbed quite a lot on the way in. But is, guys who are swearing that their injection technique is perfect and it's going in nice and slow, and then all of a sudden the coughing fit kicks in. There was, for a while, people were arguing it was the benzyl alcohol, it was the carrier oil. We've come to sort of rule those out, because it's a micropulmonary embolism is what you're getting, right? So if you put in a vein and it goes in, and because the acetate ester, a lot of that is immediately deesterified and released into the blood immediately. And then because of that, you get the prostaglandin response, right? That's what the constriction occurs, because your body's trying to now get the oil out of the lung. If that, just a warning for other people, if you get that symptom from testosterone or something else, you need to go to a doctor and have an x-ray done in your lungs, because you'll get oil that can build up in there, which can be really dangerous. So that's a known thing. So people on TRT, even if they get that, it's rare, but you need to have an x-ray on your lungs done if you get that from something outside of Tren acetate.